Good morning, morning minutes. Christmas is coming. Your emotions about buying do not switch off. Watch this episode to find out how you can steer them in the right direction. Oh, wrong button. Good morning, everyone. Morning Minutes, episode 316 with myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, and special guest, Gavin Reynolds. How are you, gents?
We can't hear you.
Step ladder, Gavin.
No, just press one button and screwed it. Yep.
Yeah. You guys back? Good morning. How are you?
Yeah.
So this morning we're going to be talking
While you're
about
talking, we'll just refresh the screen.
the Christmas emotions of buying a property. A lot of people are switching off and having time off work due to everything going on. I don't believe a lot of people will be traveling out of their areas. So with special guest Gavin, we're going to be talking about optimizing this time period to sell when selling a property and also when buying a property. Generally, a lot of people sort of steer away from doing a deal this time of year, but we believe it's going to be very busy this time of year and a great time to sell or buy. Don't you reckon, Gav? You back yet? I think I'll be running this solo for a bit.
Hey guys, how's the sound now?
Yep, sound is all good. I was just saying coming into Chrissy will be a great time to buy and sell. A lot of people typically, well, they sort of switch off, but the emotions don't go away. So they're sort of in between two mindsets. Do I just stop looking at properties, come back in February, or do I try and do a deal before Christmas? What do you guys think?
Gav, you got very firm thoughts on this one.
I do have very firm thoughts on it because I think anybody that's still in the market right now, either selling or buying, is absolutely prepared to make a decision before Santa comes. Yeah, after the past, 10 or 15 years of gathering data, which is mostly anecdotal but fairly consistent, people get really, really good at making a list and checking it twice. And on that list so frequently goes things like, I really want to have a deal wrapped up on my hand and friends, lots of conversations, maybe catching up with people you haven't seen for a while. Buyers love to be able to tell them about, hey, we bought a place, we settle in January, so they get extra good at making decisions. And what that generally means isn't that deals are going to be a pushover on either side of the transaction. It actually means that the people are going to be much more reasonable, pragmatic, because they just want to tie a bow around decisions and get things done before Christmas.
So you're paying a premium, you reckon? Do you reckon you're paying a premium as a buyer? Do you reckon you're getting a premium as a seller? Or do you think buyers are getting a bargain? Is it, what's your experience? Because Gav, you've been doing this a hell of a long time and a lot of volume.
I don't think that there's bargains necessarily, but nor do I think people are paying premium prices. I mean, the market is the market at the moment, and I think we'd all agree that it's a relatively healthy market, driven largely by a lack of stock supply. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that as we come into the late January and February market when the heart starters are reattached across the state. Yeah, sure.
I think during this time, it's more people are more.
Yep. As far as what it means, go, Michael.
Oh, I was just saying, I believe it when it comes into this time of year, it's not necessarily, underpaying, overpaying. It's more the focus is more on the timing of the deal than everyone having their guard up and going, I want the cheapest price, I want the most expensive price. So, okay, let's just get to the middle a lot faster rather than you may have a few days or a week of argy-bargy with pricing. The motivation is more about having it exchanged by a certain deadline, having it settle at a certain deadline. And if you can meet those requirements, the rest of the deal just falls together. Where normally, say, November and October, September, they're a little bit more firmer on the price they want to achieve. and the exchange date, settlement date are sort of a second tier, where this time it's sort of a flip of what the goals are.
And you almost can't go wrong at 2% interest rates.
Yeah,
you definitely can't. If the bank are lending, and you know, all the evidence that I hear is that the banks are lending, particularly if you're an existing bank customer. The banks are being particularly friendly at the moment. Well, much more friendly than they had been. I don't want to suggest that it's a cakewalk at any time, but yeah, if there's buyers in the market and they're telling you that they've got finance approval, it's very likely that they do and that they're there to do a deal. But just to go a little deeper on what you touched on Michael, and I think it's particularly accurate, but just to dive slightly deeper, I think people haven't got their spurs on as much on either side of the transaction. They're prepared to be much more reasonable. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to discount significantly on the selling side or overpay on the buying side, but they approach the transaction in a much more conciliatory way and prepared to do a deal, as opposed to, hey, I need to squeeze every drip out of the lemon, regardless of which side of the transaction I'm on.
And one thing, especially what you said with interest rates, I'm loving at the moment when you're negotiating and you're 5, 10, even 50 grand off, and you sort of relate that to how much that actually is on the loan. Okay, so 50 grand, let's say you financed all that at 2%, you're only paying an extra $50 a week for it. Are you going to let it go for $50 a week? And they're like, oh yeah, okay, let's increase it. So I think now with interest rates heavily on the side of everyone, really, it's a really good time to start using it in negotiations.
And don't forget, I know a lot of people miss the Reserve Bank commentary. When they last reduced the Reserve Bank rates, they also said that they're not going to be changing it for the next 3 years, up or down. So even when you're a bit cheeky and you think to yourself, oh, it's only going to cost you $22, $20, whatever it is a week more, that's actually for 3 years is a long time in anyone's life. So it's good news all round.
And anyone in the finance business is saying rates are going to be lower for longer. I mean, it's like the catchphrase that they got tattooed onto the back of their eyelids at the moment.
Yep.
So, but coming back to just the overall sentiment and the opportunity for both buyers out there that are watching and sellers that are watching, or real estate professionals, there is absolutely an opportunity for you to get that deal done, because you will get a sense of reasonableness that you're not going to experience on both sides of the transaction at any other time of the year, because we're inside 4 weeks of that run to Christmas.
Talk us through that dialogue that you would be using to those vendors. So what's some key words, what's some scenarios to sort of extract and bring that reason to, especially because sometimes they don't get there to themselves, but are you explaining the emotion of this time of year, the piece of having a deal before done? How would you sort of get them to that reasoning?
Yeah, okay. So, and I'm not a big one for dialogues. I'm a big one for people making informed decisions, and that requires information.
Yep.
I think our job as real estate professionals is to create a different perspective that allows people, whether buying or selling, to make the very best decisions, or the decisions that are going to serve them in the very best way. So as a result, I think it's our job, if people are in the fog of, I've had my property on the market for a while, or I've just brought it to market, and am I selling it too soon because I haven't exposed it to the 2021 market, or whatever it might be, I think it's just a matter of us asking them questions about what they want from a timing point of view. Would you like to have this resolved, buying or selling, before Christmas? That then allows us, as the real estate professionals, to actually create the yellow brick road that gets the buyer or the seller to that destination.
And I think it's almost counterintuitive, because people think Christmas is such a destination. People think, you know what, could I, would I? It is absolutely irrelevant in the business transaction. You're going to sell the property for the rest of your life, and you're going to buy the property for the rest of your life. Just get it done. And you may even find through this period, it is counterintuitive to say what I just said, but you may find that you're actually selling in isolation and not in competition, because everyone is thinking, no, it's Christmas. Now, don't forget, the buyers can't turn that emotion off. The buyers, there's no switch on them saying not buying for 8 weeks. They feel it.
Yep.
That they also have more time than they've had the whole entire year because it's that time of year. And the fact is, realestate.com sees more traffic in the next 2 months than they do the last 6 months. So it's a very high traffic period, which again proves that I'm saying people have got the emotion, people have got time. So if you want to sell, I think it's a terrific time to hit the market.
I would agree with all of that, and I think that
Informed.
yeah, and again coming back to but with information, if we're talking about dialogue or more so the spirit of the discussions is how I like to look at it. The spirit is, what is it that you really want, not what you've told me that you want for the last 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever it might be. What is it that you'd like to see? Paint me the perfect picture between now and Christmas. And then it's any of the property shepherds, which is basically what the real estate professionals out there are. Yeah, it's their job to we're the Sherpas taking them to Everest, and the way that we can guide them through that is to actually give them the information or allow them the space in their minds to actually make the great decisions about what they do between now and Christmas.
Yeah, and it's very true. Especially you've got to ask those questions and see where they're at.
Think about that.
If they've sold, like if the seller's already bought, they've got to be very conscious with the timing of everything. And if you just sort of switch off if you've got a standard 6 to 8 week settlement on the deal you did beginning of December and you haven't sold your property, 4 weeks can go very fast. You don't want to be rushing sort of to buy a property in the first couple of weeks of January. So I think, as you said, find out their situation and make put out a timeline that would work very well for them. If you're selling in isolation December, that's great, but then you want to be buying when there's lots of competition and you may be able to leverage a good deal, maybe beginning of January, early February. So you may be structuring a longer settlement on your property or vice versa. So I think it's key what you said there, Gav, where you're just sort of really talking through where they're at and what they want to do, because it will be very different from a seller who's bought and a seller who hasn't bought. You may want to have the deposit releasable from the buyer, so they've got a bit more liquidity coming into this period if they can't move money around or things come up. So there's some key things in the deal that you, as a professional agent, you can sort of see those couple steps ahead and where they'll be would be key.
And I think it needs not to be about the numbers. It needs to be about the feeling of, because we're not these binary computers that are a series of zeros and ones. People carry around the weight of unresolved decisions and unresolved things in their lives.
Well said.
So
Praise the Lord.
praise the Lord.
Praise the Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
But it's true, eh?
It is, because
this is something they're carrying on their back, and and if we can give buyers and sellers information to make that decision, we're not pushing you. We're helping you with information to say, this is what happens over the next 4 weeks. This is what doesn't happen over the next 4 weeks on your bike.
True.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Anything else you want to add, gents?
No.
Nope.
Have a fantastic day, everybody.
Yes. Good to have you on, Gav. I said that there's like a 5-second delay. It must be.
Get shit done. If you got to do it. And it goes for rentals as well. You can get yourself into that rental property quite easily over this period.
Oh, yeah. Very competitive during this period.
How's this backdrop? You like it? Look at that sky.
It's not a cloud in the sky.
Look at that.
Except that one there.
No.
But beautiful. Alrighty, gents.
We're doing back now at the moment.
That's
Steve,
cute.
the reception was a bit hazy, but I hope it was good.
Yeah.